as you know, I'm big on this. How do we define blackness, right? So for her to say the Holocaust wasn't about race is just inherently ignorant, because if
I beg to differ.
Hold on.
Ahead.
If the person who creates this movement cites race, how can you say that's not the case?
Greetings and salutations to you all. Welcome back to the Umpteenth View. 'Tis I, JusHenry, the original, and this is the good cousin.
Wisby, wise in the flesh, good people. How y'all feeling out there?
I hope you're feeling great and fantastic and wonderful and all the good adjectives that you can select yourself. There's a lot of synonyms that you can find on Google. They're always friendly. They're always handy. Google and I are like second cousins, you know, the redheaded stepchild second cousin that has freckles across their face that everybody just leaves out because they can't play basketball. Everybody else is, you know, it's all love though.
I like how you just personify Google like Annie.
Like the redheaded stepchild, like
Annie.
It could be Annie. It could be even Pippi Longstocking.
Old school stuff.
Ooh, Pippi Longstocking. If you know about Pippi Longstocking, go ahead and give us a like. Who else was redheaded?
Carrot Top, I think.
Carrot Top with his
the character from Mad
Diesel. Diesel Carrot Top, not old school Carrot Top. I'm talking about Diesel Carrot Top. When Carrot Top was, I don't know if he was juicing. All I know is like his muscles had barbers. Like he had an edge around it.
He blew up for sure.
I was like, yo, you crazy, bro. Nah, I think he claimed it was natural, but hey, it's whatever. You know what I'm saying? He did some good work. Irregardless. Why are we talking about Carrot Top? No, not. I know not. But this is the Umpteenth View. He's trying to lure us and lug us or drag us into the actual segue. But I'm not allowing it. We're gonna stay here. We're gonna talk. We're gonna do 100 push-ups a day, like Saitama. We're gonna do
I've done that before
our stretches like Monkey D. Luffy. Just joking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You sure? We went from Carrot Top, redheaded Google to stepchild. Like, I love it. That was
I think it's fun.
That's how you know we're not scripted, because that was definitely off script, and I'm keeping it off. Nothing will be edited. Anyway, what we got today is a interesting topic, right? I'm curious to see JusHenry's reaction to it. I know I stand on it now. It's important that I didn't just take the clip. I took the full thing so I can get that context. Because coming off the clip, I was upset. I was upset for a lot of reasons. For which
angry?
For which we will discuss at the end of the video. But we're gonna let the whole video play. We're gonna let the whole thing play out, and then from then we'll get to the session.
Very good, sir.
Let's do it.
Maestro.
Cue that.
So 2 schools are being accused of banning books after one in Washington state pulled To Kill a Mockingbird off their required reading list after complaints from students and parents, including a former black student who said it made her uncomfortable, and a Tennessee school pulled the graphic novel Mouse out of their lessons on the Holocaust because it contained some nudity and some bad language. Personally, I'm shocked because, you know, given the story of Mouse, I'm surprised that that's what made you uncomfortable. The fact that there was some nudity and I mean, it's about the Holocaust, the killing of 6 million people, but that didn't bother you. But the naked.
I'm not sure that they don't use the naked part as a kind of a canard to throw you off from the fact that they don't like history that makes white people look bad.
Well, this is white people doing it to white people.
Yeah.
So this is, you know, y'all go fight amongst yourselves, but don't, you know.
Well, and look at what kids watch these days and the music they listen to say that when proving or showing them a work of history or art or something that happened is bad language or nudity, turn off reality TV, turn off the radio, turn off everything they're doing, because kids are exposed to this stuff really early in inappropriate situations, not ones where you're learning or teaching.
Yeah, and the nudity is a drawing of his mom who died during the Holocaust. I mean, in Maus, which is the other thing. It's just insane.
But
I don't know what's going on.
It's about the words.
It's about the N word.
Yes,
Girl is
it's
triggered
about the
in the class by
well,
word.
because if you're sitting amongst lots of students and you're reading it out loud, it comes up a lot and makes people uncomfortable.
And especially if you're the only
black kid
student
in this,
there. I mean,
so that was what they're talking about triggering. I don't know if that should stop people from having it as reading, but it's stopping as required reading.
Well,
So
there's an
they can still
entire
do it.
bill moving
Okay.
through the Florida legislature
there
right
is.
now about banning any conversation in schools that make people feel uncomfortable because of their race or gender. And there's also in Florida a bill banning talking about LGBTQ conversations. It's being referred to as "Don't Say Gay." So I don't know what's happening with all of this banning going on. You know, we talked about Beloved being banned, Maus, To Kill a Mockingbird, conversations. I think it's making it very difficult to teach kids. And all these people who
even
talk
talk.
about and complain about people being snowflakes, how do you not raise snowflakes if you don't expose them to reality?
right? This was the plan.
Right.
These anti-history laws that started being passed, these alleged CRT laws that started being passed. I don't think people saw far enough into the future. You start banning discussions about race, then you start
CRT,
banning
I was
discussions
on
about the
this critical race
Holocaust,
theory.
then you start banning
CRT,
discussions about the
I think it's-
LGBTQ
she's referred to
community.
as critical
That's
race
where it
theory.
started, and
Got
this
it.
was all very planned, and in my view. And what bothers me the most is people saying, I don't want my children to be uncomfortable. Well, how about your children being uncomfortable
But
and
that's
being in a
ridiculous.
way of learning empathy, in a way of,
Right.
of learning sorrow, in a way of being able to empathize with other people's plights. I've always said if my children are subjected to racism at a very early age, which they are, then your child should be okay with being having a little bit of discomfort and learning
No,
about the
Sonny,
racism that exists.
I
Right,
observe that
right.
young children are naturally
Real life.
empathetic.
Yeah.
And that the empathy is kind of drained out of them by their parents and things that they hear out there.
Right.
That song. It's the
You've
song
got to
that
be
taught.
carefully
That's
taught
right.
from South Pacific.
Yeah.
You know, my grandson, I remember when he was around 3 or 4 years old, there was a kid who was in trouble for some reason, and I mean, it gives me chills. My grandson put his arm around the kid, like, I'm with you. And when you talk about empathy, children are naturally like that.
Well, it's the parents'
And
issue.
if you
It's a
teach a
parents'
white
issue.
kid what happened to his friend who happens to be black, he might feel terrible about what happened. That doesn't mean he feels bad that he did something.
Exactly.
This is the confusion that they're creating, I believe.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that
I could take
colleges,
that.
this all started in colleges and universities and not wanting to make kids uncomfortable. And we talked about it once here on the show with actually Van Jones when he said, if I send my kids to school, I want them to be uncomfortable. I want people to push
Right.
back on their beliefs because otherwise we're not preparing kids to go out into the real world. We're
Real
preparing them
world,
for
right.
a world that doesn't exist outside of their own
Does
house.
not exist.
Well,
at all.
also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about
maybe
race.
ethnicity.
Well, they
No,
consider
it's
Jews
about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about
Well,
race.
what is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's
Well,
about
but
going
it's not-
after
it's
Jews
not about
ideal
and
race.
gypsies
It's
and
But these are two
Romans.
white groups of people.
Well, that
How
was
do
Right.
the black
So
people.
how can you say that it's the same?
You're missing the point. You're
It's
missing the point.
Yeah.
The minute you turn
Right.
it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk
Right.
about it for what it is. It's how people treat
tell
each
him
other.
Whoopi. Tell
It's
him
a
Whoopi.
problem. It
Tell
doesn't
him
matter
Whoopi.
if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other. So is it, if you're uncomfortable, if you hear about Maus, should you be worried? Should your child say, oh my God, I wonder if that's me? No, that's not what they're gonna say. They're gonna say, I don't
Right.
want to be like that.
Right.
I want to be cool.
Yeah,
And in
most kids, they don't want to be cruel.
No, they don't.
You see they cue the music to cut her off?
What?
You see they cue the music to cut off?
Sandman.
The yellow stars, where people are comparing vaccinations to what Anne Frank went through.
Yeah.
So it is necessary for kids to learn about the
To
Holocaust.
learn about man's inhumanity to man, however it exposes itself. I have to cut you off.
Right.
I just want to say that Maus was banned and it flew to top 20 of Amazon's rules last week.
All right, so your response is interesting. So we're gonna let it. Your thoughts on the video.
First off, I like that one. That's a good one. Okay. So we have Whoopi saying, you know what, we have an issue when it comes to our curriculum, when it comes to how we're teaching our children. This has been brought up to as a concern, and we all need to address it. How do you feel? Especially when it comes to allegedly children making complaints about how these stories make them feel. First off, where is the responsibility of a parent that tells them the difference between fiction and nonfiction? Secondly, where's the forethought of the teacher to be able to prepare them, or just to give them a little caveat of, you know, what they're in for when it comes to those stories, especially in nonfiction stories that give you, especially fiction stories that give you such a nonfiction perspective. I think that when Whoopi kind of brought it up, I think she was anticipating the whole panel kind of swaying one way and kind of finding the fault in the actual implementation of that. That's kind of just gonna take because a child is saying that they're uncomfortable with something, we're gonna take it from the rest of the children. The others that are actually learning and actually getting the proper grade from what they're supposed to interpret from the actual stories. Are we facilitating hatred and bigotry and racism? I'm gonna say it, racism. No, those stories do not give you those ideals as though it's good, as though it's what we should be living. No, it doesn't give you those. It gives you the learning that comes from the truth of what happened. You know, we know facts. So when, which one was it? I don't know.
I don't. Unfortunately, I don't like The View very much.
The show as a whole.
Yeah, as a whole, like a lot of their opinions. I like that they're all a lot different.
A bit biased.
No, I don't.
Opinionated? What do you think?
It resonates with, like when we were talking about academics and the fresh and fit. I think it just gravitates to certain people. I'm just not one of them. So I don't know their names.
It's a good term.
But what I liked about this is that The View, they have like their originals. I think Whoopi, Joy, I think some of the originals, they rotate some members in and out.
Yeah, I got you.
So this was new to me, and not to cut you off.
You safe?
You're good. Because the only clip I heard, because part of my job, sometimes I have to watch the news and talk shows and stuff like that, unfortunately. The clip I heard was her talking about the Holocaust wasn't about race. That upset me.
Why?
Why did it upset me? Because I've had conversations like this before, when Black Americans, Black individuals, they think race started and ends with them, right? We don't consider having a worldly view. In context, though, because Whoopi was actually suspended for 2 weeks for this, and she was like, I shouldn't be suspended for this misinformation. This is completely ignorant for her to say such a thing like this. Why? Because if you ever read Hitler's Mein Kampf, race is his justification for why he should oppress the Jews. He should oppress every non-Aryan member. So what he's referring to is a specific class, ethnicity of people. He started with the Jews. That doesn't mean that Black folks were taken, biracial folks were taken and killed in their camp too. Mein Kampf is his work of art where he literally referenced race. So in all essence, in all technicalities, race is implemented in the Holocaust. So for her to say it's not about race. It's ignorant, but her whole claim is saying it's about humans being inhumane to other humans. For this, I completely agree. But when I only heard the clip, it was that bit, and I was like, you way too old to be saying some stuff like that. And I say that my grandparents, as we talked about before, they are proponents of, they strongly disregard any other ethnicity other than themselves.
Okay.
Because of the amount of oppression my maternal grandparents, my paternal grandparents, not so much. My grandfather, maybe. My paternal grandmother is a saint. Mad love to her. But this conversation I've had many times when you just hear, and it's one of the things what I love about literature, because I grew up angry and thinking the world was against me, especially with my maternal folks in my ear. And so one of the first books that I kind of started like, okay, thinking a little differently is Anne Frank, The Diary of Anne Frank.
Yes.
And so we read snippets of that because I never really read a full book while I was in school until
I've been to Anne Frank's and Frank's house in
that's
Holland.
fantastic. I was just watching a documentary on that stuff, but the Holocaust is very big and very interesting to me, because not only that, you see it in the Hutus and the Tutsis beef, if you know what that is.
Yes.
Those are black people killing black people. And in one of the guy's rhetorics, I believe the person who instigated, he uses the notion of race. He literally says their race is bad. So
wow.
So at that point, race began to seem more as expected, because we were just talking about when Caribbean people come to the States, they're differentiated as not being American. So they are being racially discriminated against by people who appear like them, but they may not sound like them, right? So you immediately start to see that distinction. So as I'm growing up in school, I'm immediately beginning to understand that this race word is bigger than people are perpetuating it to be. As in bigger, as in more worldly, right? More worldly. It's bigger than the States. Remember, I found out that only 5% of the African slaves came to the States. But you often find Black Americans the most boisterous about being racially oppressed and stuff like that. Even now to this day, I'm still trying to find books and literature to talk about what it was like being a black person growing up in Europe, what it was like being a black person in the Caribbean. Because I've asked my wife, because my wife is Caribbean. She don't really know. My wife reads other kind of stuff, but I'm still interested in the things, because as you know, I'm big on this how do we define blackness, right? So for her to say the Holocaust wasn't about race is just inherently ignorant, because
I beg to differ.
Hold on. If the person who creates this movement cites race, how can you say that's not the case?
It's okay. So let me just make sure. All right. Race definition is that's crap. I don't want to talk about
First off,
not the competition between runners.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
First off, grab that dictionary down there. Don't grab me no online dictionary.
Enough said. No problem.
Why? A printed dictionary is printed in certain editions. Online dictionaries, yes sir. Online dictionaries change to fit political norms and standards. If it's printed, you'll find that often case, especially in this American English Oxford Dictionary, you'll find that it's different.
Bring on the big blood clot.
Look it up.
Hopefully we don't get demonetized for saying blood clot. But anyway. I'm sorry. My bad. All right, so we're going to the R section just because it is very important for context to be able to define what we're speaking of in specifics. Okay. Let's see here. We got nope.
Why are you scamming through definitions?
Well, we're talking about a race. You want to talk about a race between people, like when we're running? So we got to get rid of that first.
Yeah, but it should just be right there.
No, it's not.
It's
competition. I know. That's where I'm trying to get to it. You just go see. So the guy that reads super fast wants me to read super fast. So I'm gonna need him. To
that's my fault. I apologize. It's like, oh, this ain't it. I'm going through definitions quickly. Do your thing. My fault,
Bethlehem and Jesus. I'm just teasing. All right. Let's see here. We got compete, leisure activity, move or progress swiftly, race against time. Let's keep going. Now. Race. Each of the major divisions of humankind having distinct physical characteristics, people of all race, colors, and creeds, a group of people sharing the same culture, history, language, etc. An ethnic group. We Scots are a bloodthirsty race then. The fact or condition of belonging to such a division or group, qualities or characteristics associated with this, people of mixed race. A group of set of people or things with a common feature or features. I don't like how this keeps going with these feature things.
That's what it is.
But that's funny, because how can we have doppelgangers from other villages, especially if black people are saying their race is against another black race, which is like
what they're, because Wraith. I said Wraith.
I know, because that thing is fire. But anyway, no, but it's just as far as like people speaking on the definition of race. Everyone that's speaking is using race as in like their village, like my sect, my lineage, this lineage of who we are, right? Which is nothing against another people who they are, and their just color just happens to be the same color as ours. Yeah, so what? Their nose matches our nose. So what? Their hair naps the way ours nap. It doesn't matter, because they're of a different lineage, and we can prove it with our history and so on, right? So therefore, it's important that we go ahead and define what race is, so that we can say, okay, Whoopi, was Mr. Hitler wrong, or excuse me, was Mr. Hitler and the whole movement actually basing their everything on race? Yes, pretty much they were, because it doesn't matter your color.
You aren't Aryan.
It doesn't matter your color in this instance. It doesn't matter the color. So that's what I would think we would need to differentiate between your actual color than race, or basically there was no reason to make such a grandiose statement to denounce the act, the use of the word race, to be able to say that I'm going to define it more specifically by saying it's human beings against human beings. I think it's more of not a plot, but like a way to kind of propaganda your way to get that race word in there, to where I think that it kind of took away from the effectiveness of what you were trying to say, Whoop. But at the same token, after you said that part, getting into the whole humanity against humanity, that I agree with. Of course, just like, you know, the good cousin said, but it's just like,
I think she was definitely speaking in a good place.
She was trying to get there. It's just that
she got so passionate about it.
But I think that being a journalist as well, and being in the limelight, there's a kind of you feel like obligated to get the points, to get the issues out there, so that your people can feel kind of confident in what to say and how to say it. But at the same token, you kind of took away from your strength in that moment, being confident in the fact to say that, yeah, it was an actual egregious act of humanity against humanity, which all genocide is.
100%.
If you're gonna say it's genocide, it's like, matter of fact, me personally, I'm the type of person, I point out the folly, I point out the foolishness in it all. As in, Hitler had brown hair and brown eyes. He had
Jewish.
Dark hairs and brown eyes. Now here's the next thing. Wasn't he promoting people that had blonde hair and blue eyes?
Yeah. He said they were the true people.
So if people were really listening to this man speak and preach, they would cut him up and sling him up first. No?
The actual devices.
I'm just saying.
You're not wrong, because he's Jewish as well.
Okay, keep going.
You're not wrong, right? But what works for any of these movements, because what they are when we look at race, right? And like I said, when we talk about race and why this is such a passionate subject for me, is that race always sums up to one thing, and that is a rhetorical device to enforce and impose prejudice amongst a select type of people. That's all it is, right? And so in the States, race, we've been tricked, and it's
bamboozled.
It's actually irritating me just to think about, because I'm big against not censoring books. I hate it. I hate censorship at all. But we've been tricked to believe, and I say we as the Black American community, or Black people who've come here to tricked into believe that it starts and ends with us. And what this does is creates a rift in between us and other marginalized communities. And ultimately, what Whoopi Goldberg is concluding with is we should be looking at these things, as Joy Reid said, we should be looking at these hurtful, criminal acts of history and learning from them. You can't do that if you're censoring them. So while, like I said, the clip triggered me, like I said, because I'm cool with a Jewish dude. I've looked into Black Jewish people. Tiffany Haddish story, she was a Black Jewish person. I've looked into all that stuff, and the defining what it means to be Black is a passion of mine. So all this stuff kind of goes into what my just natural study habits go to. And when I first heard that, it just surfaced so much. Like I said, I have had conversations with my grandparents about this, and it was not a fun time. I've had conversations with my auntie them about Democrats and Republicans. They not for all this, bro. It goes so deep. But when I sat back, because I had to get the video, and y'all know I'm big on getting the original video. I got the video and I sat down and watched it, and I was like, okay, this is not what it was. Boo, you was tweaking, right? And I she does apologize for it, but she does boil back against suspended for 2 weeks. She made a mistake. And it's powerful because the view is watched by many people. Just like if we say something, and we have said something that I may not agree with at that point in time, and then we'll say something probably today or tomorrow that we won't agree with in the future, right? And we do have to take responsibility for that if we are publicizing ourselves on our platform, right?
It's called being an adult, but you know.
Exactly. In her case, she's an elder, right? And that's not a shot at Whitney. Mad with love to all
of which, but see, you would think an elder would have a bit of a greater pause before speaking, type of thing. That's all I'm saying.
So yeah, so that was the thing, and like I said, I think she comes from a great place, and people, because people are blowing up. You shouldn't suspend her. You should suspend her. You fire Roseanne and stuff like that. I don't think her case is the same. I don't know too much about Roseanne stuff.
She
but when
literally
they fired
said
her
the word on camera too. So
true.
So that kind of puts her in a predicament where bureaucratically, like thinking business wise.
That's a good word.
And
I imagine
it's not to say it's above my pay grade, because I know you don't like that term, but it's more like this is policy, and we must stick to policy because I can't treat you any better than anybody
Big facts.
else. Now my thing is, let's bring it back to the crux of it all, as in, what are we teaching our children?
Big facts.
Are we teaching our children it's okay to just feel uncomfortable about something and say, you know what? I'm going to avoid it. I'm not going to deal with it. I don't want to read that. It makes me feel funny.
You're supposed to.
Maybe I don't want to write a report on that. Can we write a happy story? Something like that.
Let's write about Baby Shark.
Grandpa Shark. Where is he at? What I'm saying is that we don't want to create snowflakes. Is that what she said?
Absolutely.
We don't want to create snowflakes. We don't want to create people that literally cave at the sight of an obstacle or oppression or just something not going their way. I mean,
Why you say it like
If
that?
I stopped living, if I stopped giving a crap about life or trying to be better from the slightest, if not just one great, big, huge slap to the face, I'd be done. I wouldn't be here. I'd be all right with being a hobo, a bum on the street. 3 squares. You gotta take me in, cuz. I'm indecently exposing everywhere, right? Just so I can get locked up for free, right? I literally spoke to these gentlemen. I actually have been beaten in chess by a gentleman that lives like that.
Boy, yeah, that's real. That's big old
That
facts.
lives like that
Homeless
in this
people in
city.
the park playing chess.
That
life.
brilliant. Matter of fact, he knows a multitude of the law.
That's incredible.
He knows a lot. Would I take his word while sitting in a pod and not being able to, look up the information he's saying? No. It's good for conversation and banter across the chessboard, but I wouldn't take his word, mainly because of the environment. But as far as him being right after the fact, and as far as my research, he knew what he was talking about. So this goes into show that you don't know who you're dealing with, and also you don't know who you're creating. Let's go back to the school thing. We don't know who we're creating or what we're holding back, who we're holding back, because of the simple fact that how empathetic our children are. It puts a mindset when you're empathetic about someone. You change how you question them, you change how you speak to them, you change how you act around them, you change the motive that you have, so that either you're trying to take advantage of them or you're trying to help them. We don't want to make this difficult. So therefore, if you're trying to help somebody, do it, right? If we're able to help these children become better people, become cultured people, I'm gonna tell you another joke. How about this? I've spoken to a Nigerian hooker in, what was it, Italy? Was it Italy or
Add some
was
political correctness to that so we don't get. So.
No, she's born in Nigeria.
No.
What do you mean?
No, the H word. So,
prostitute.
There you go.
Pardon me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The YouTubes. I'm so sorry. So sorry, YouTubes. Forgive me. The prostitute. She was a Nigerian prostitute whom happened to find her way. I think it was Italy. It was Italy. In a brothel in Italy.
That's what's up.
So, was it Italy? It's either Italy or... No, it had to be Italy.
I'd like to go to
It was
Italy
Italy.
at some point.
Because never mind. Long story. I at the time was in the devout relationship that I told you guys about in a previous video.
Y'all go check that out.
That we know the ending to that. Everyone go check that out. And while I was there, I was pretty much just a facilitator, Uncle Henry, just making sure the guys that were not versed in drinking and acting a fool, they weren't just hauled off to jail. So anyway, while these guys are going up for round 1, round 2, round 3, there's guys that are going up with different women on different. Anyway, I'm downstairs and it's actually a rather nice cafe looking type of spot. What was the movie where the old people were living in this place and they had a cafe in the bottom where they had little aliens that were little machine aliens that came and visited them? It was an old movie. What was
I'm
it
lost.
called?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh man, I can't remember the name of the movie. Either way, the cafe looked like this with the little tiny checkered tiles, not the big boys, the little tiny boys that would take forever to put in. This is the type of spot. Anyway, so when we're downstairs, she sits next to me and we're talking. She tells me, "Hey, I want a black man." I'm like, "What do you mean?" and not thinking that she's coming on to me. I think she's just actually just making a statement, right? Because we were in the midst of conversation. I want a black man. I was just like, so tell me what you mean. She was like, these black men come in from the Navy and the military guys, and they always grab a white girl or an Asian girl. They never take the black girl. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, they do all kinds of things to them, but they just never pick me. I get white guys and Asian guys and Hispanic guys all day, but not a black man. I say, well, what? So she tells me some of the things that the black men get to do, and I'm just like, oh, it's an ego thing. So I told her about the whole ego mindset of an American black man that goes overseas and has an opportunity to take complete advantage of someone that has been, quote unquote, oppressing them. And she said, oh, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty stupid. It's pretty simple. She was like, well, that's not fair. And I was like, well, what you want me to tell you? And this is downstairs of a brothel. But nonetheless, get back to the kids, right? How many times have I done that? Let's bring it back to the kids. So
as long as you're recentering yourself, you're in the clear.
If we take away the ability to broaden a person's horizon and a person's perspective early in a child's life, we're doing them a detriment. We are taking away the capacity or the aptitude of this person. And I think that it's deplorable. I think it's unfair, and I think it's not right. Now, if there was another supplemental, let's say contingency plan that they had, rather than let's just cancel this, and I don't want to deal with that ever. And then we just got nothing to back it up, but I just don't want to deal with that, okay? Because my child needs to understand that we are an American people, all Americans together, all right? If that's the way you're looking at it, I disagree. But if you're looking at it more along the lines of if it's a fair people, if we're all together, but at the same time we have different cultures, let's learn about everybody's culture. Let's see what everybody's been doing so that we can learn from their mistakes and we can all come together and we can be one nation under God. All right, hallelujah, hallelujah. Sorry, I'm back. So that's my point, and I'm sticking to it. Cuz?
I got nothing. Yeah, there's no justification to censorship. It's purely as simple in my eyes, right? It's you take the thinking, the responsibility away from
bring in the bills of saying you're what is it, the gay, what was it, the bill gay, say gay, don't say gay, or something like that. I don't know nothing about that. As in the sense, like what you can say, what you can't say,
which is also wrong.
Here's my thing. I am in between. I'm really impartial when it comes to that conversation. When it comes to,
that's interesting.
Let's dictate
good word
and tell our teachers and those in leadership that you are not allowed to say these things because you're just not allowed. Why are you not allowed? Because the parents have the right to do and teach their children themselves for these subject matters. When it comes to sexuality and gender, please.
What is up with the voices?
Are they not good?
No, they're fine. They just do pull me away. I just start trying to imagine like the robot guy from Bebe's Kids, you know, like in that voice, and then robot Abe Lincoln come in, man. It's just
score.
It's killing me. Do continue though. I can't.
I'm just saying, man. You made me lose my train of thought.
Hey, you did. I just reacted. It was like dictating teachers to speak.
But see, it's just you can't. I'm caught in between the fact that you're like, you want parents to be responsible for certain subject matters, which is fine and good. But what about the parents that don't teach teach their children those things, that don't discuss those things with their children, that leave these naive, green, wet behind the ear children out here with other children that are in homes that are way more liberal than their parents, apparently. I know children. Matter of fact, I watch TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Reels, all these little clips of these children who are helped by their parents on saying curse words, saying like actual racial terms, talking about coitus.
Coitus. That word is way too sexy to know what it does.
Dancing inappropriately. Why is a child in a diaper going viral? Because they twerking. Because they know what they see on TV.
Not my baby.
Not mine. No, boy. No. And my children are half Jamaican. And you know Jamaican love to dance. Not mine. Not like that. Ain't no gyrating, nothing. Don't play with me. But anyway, all I'm saying is, well, not all I'm saying, everything I'm saying, and I'll oversay it. It's a dichot. It's like, it's hard to be able to censor. It's really difficult because of the fact that you have so many facets to think about. So are you gonna tell a teacher, you can't say nothing, and then guess what? The child is just oblivious, or is there a risk of saying, okay, we said it, but parent, you should have talked about this a little bit sooner. How about we have a meeting of the minds then? Let's have a compromise. Let's say, all right, parents, y'all just teach your children, mainly because of 5th grade going to 6th grade, especially going from elementary to middle school. That actually should kind of be the trigger time frame for you guys to start saying, you know what? Let's start talking about the birds and the bees. Let's start talking about menstruation. Gentlemen, let's start talking about the bulge. The battle of the bulge. The angles you gotta take. The tucking it under the belt, putting your shirt down. You know what I'm talking about? What? I had to live life, man. I couldn't live life. Anyway, it was crazy teenage years for me. But nonetheless,
to me,
does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Because to me, I think like the solution to the way where your teeter-totter of what you feel conflicted about is asking yourself, because I have to ask myself this because I was aspiring to be a teacher at some point, and then people back home was like, no, don't do that. My close Chicago buddies, it was like, no, don't do that. And so I stayed true to form, and I just continued to pursue what I was pursuing. And then I got friends who teach. It's always a question of, what is the role of a teacher? If it is as simple as I believe it, which is the teacher is to educate the student on the subject matter.
Okay.
Right? And so,
without bias.
There should be no bias. It's like
Correct.
reporting the news. I don't want to hear your opinion. I want to hear what happened.
Right.
So,
So
if you're teaching history, I want to know what it is. Obviously, if you are teaching a kindergarten class, I don't need to know about the brutality and the deaths of the American War. I just need to. You need to have a concept of what it was, right? You can say, okay, well, when war comes into play, there's no more mommies and there's no more daddies. In some cases, some of them don't return home. That's cool. Middle school, that narrative, even though the idea stays the same, there's more detail in that.
True.
In high school, more detail.
More detail.
College, more detail. Not only more detail, but specified detail.
Right.
You can pick out what you want to learn and build on that. And so, to hear all this politicking when it comes to the education system, that is a problem. Again, if the role of a teacher is to present information, that's just like saying, well, in math, you say 2 + 2 is 4. Oh, but it could be 22. Nah, it's 4. Right. We don't need to know all the Socratics and the philosophies and all that stuff. We don't need all that. We just want to know what it is. Now, if you say, if some people well, some people strongly believe, as I like to say, I have teacher buddies who say the teacher's job is to educate and parent the child. Why parent? Which I don't agree with, is that the child spends more time. A lot of children spend more time with the teacher than the parent.
Yeah, but that's still not their job.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. But this is
I hear what you're saying.
I've heard it, and from first
mathematically it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't agree with that because the home life is I would argue is more impactful than the education system.
Correct. No matter the time.
Yes, I would argue that. But like I said, now if your job is to guide them, then obviously that's when the politicking comes in. And what it sounds like to me is that a lot of the public school systems are going towards, okay, well, your job is to be the teacher and the parent, the educator and the parent, which I don't agree with. And so what that means to me as a father of a 9-month-old, Shorty may go to daycare, but in private school otherwise, but she won't go to public school. And this is something I was strongly opposed to because I think public school builds way more character than private, right? You get to see diversity at its fullest. More than likely, you'll be bullied from some real people issues and not just some wealthy people issues. So,
well,
but you got kids that are up in that age, so yeah. I would love to hear your opinion.
Honestly, I am all for public school in the manner of speaking that I'm an obnoxious daddy, as in I'm always there. Like even when I was told not to be, I'm always there. So therefore, the questions that I'm there for actually are wonderful. That I'm getting to, let's talk. You know, even my parents, they help with answering these questions. So the community vibe is necessary when it comes to that, because I know for a fact that I don't know everything. But I have a good grasp on a lot of different things. So for me, knowing who and how I am in my observance level and how I've observed other parents, how I've observed other people's children, then referred back to their parents to understand why those children were the way they were, I understand now the importance in which, one, a child needs a father, a child needs a mother that communicate together for their betterment, for the best interest of the child. See how there was 4 degrees to it though? It's not just an existence. It's not just us being together and then that's it.
Right.
No,
there's levels to it.
That's a lot more to it, which is why I believe that, one, the black culture does not take our education system as seriously as we should.
Agreed.
There's not enough black people in those board meetings.
I agree.
There's not enough black people on the actual panels.
I agree.
Actually, in administration. I asked my mother that if she was going to be in admin, because she's
OG in the game.
Over 30 years in teaching. So why wouldn't you be? And she was like, nope, I'm good. And I was like, wow, okay, noted. It's not for everybody. So
big facts.
But we still need people
somebody to take the reins.
People of not only just color, people of righteousness, people of proper, like proper code, man. Like people that live life not just for themselves, but actually for the betterment of like everybody. Because the way people approach life can drastically change when it comes from themselves as opposed to doing it for others. Like it's amazing to see the light difference. Like it's a different spectrum of light. So
you're having a child, realize you gotta do for somebody else.
Amens and amens again.
Yeah, I learned that myself.
But anyway, to wrap what I have to say up, Whoopi, I can dig it, but you already know we could tighten that up. You know what I'm saying?
And it's ultimately
that's all.
From the context of it, it just seems she got passion. Like, bro, I can't talk about certain subjects
without letting loose.
Yeah, and so you gotta take that pause. And I really think her heart was in a good place. Yeah. I don't doubt that for a second, because Mouse, that book is tough. Yeah, it's a great book. but she's just being punished for a claim, and I don't think it should be extreme as for being fired. The suspension kinda is a little too much, because overall I think that's when you picking at a claim instead of looking at the context of the video.
Because and especially because she wasn't calling anybody the N-word. She wasn't
speaking out
malicious to anybody. She was speaking on the facts. She was speaking of the verbiage used. She was just kind of passionately letting it kind of be all laid out on the page.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of my fault. I thought you were.
No, you good.
Yeah, I think it's kind of I think it's kind of an extreme view of saying this anti-Semitic,
Semitic?
Yeah, because I was thinking of Nick Cannon went through beef with that stuff too, and you take his rhetoric versus Whoopi's completely different.
We the black Jews, we the greatest.
It's completely different than Whoopi's, right? Just compare her rhetoric to Nick Cannon's, right? So I don't think it's along the same as that. Yeah, I can see how that message may upset people because people are selective listening, like Brittany Renner.
Oh God.
I shouldn't have did like we talk about getting passionate and saying something, and then you're like, all right, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I need to leave that woman alone.
Maybe you need to calm down and dial it down a few notches.
But that's all I got.
Let's unpack this a little.
That's all I got.
Yeah, not for me. It's we are picking up on some good subject matter, because things like this, the nuances of the conversation of race needs to be put out there. So I think it's really, really healthy. I'm sorry, Whoopi, that you were the sacrificial landlord right now.
I'm pretty sure she's still being paid.
But she's getting paid, baby. She's probably got executive producer creds, all that. So
she's probably cussing them out, drinking them Mai Tai.
What?
Looking at her what's the Lamborghini in the garden, like, you mother sickers.
On the beach with the Zoom meeting, looking at everybody, cussing at everybody out. Anyway.
Talking to a panel like, why you didn't defend me? I know she probably cussing. Whoopi don't look like she give her 2 Fs.
I think she treats people better than Barbara Walters.
Hey, you may be right.
And that's just my opinion. Barbara Walters is a treat. She was wonderful in her time. Just on The View, she was a bit, I don't know. It was fun to see egos tussle, and I leave it at that.
Until next time,
I bid you adieu.